There's so many lies told about Israel, and it hurts me as an American that these disparaging things are said about our partner, because in saying about our partner, they're saying about us. They're saying we made a bad choice, that we are a part of something that we are not a part of. If you hear someone say, Israel is a genocidal nation, what a lie. Folks, if Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, I'm going to tell you what I told Pierce Morgan when he asked me that. If Israel is genocidal, they are really, really bad at it. All of Gaza is the size of Las Vegas. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could have done it in 3 hours on the 8th of October, 2023, and it would have been over. They have taken measures to protect human life, the likes of which our own country does not do. They announce in advance where they're going to strike. They warn the people who are living in those areas, get out because we're going to strike right here. And they send messages. They drop leaflets. They make broadcast announcements. And what Hamas does is it then moves the civilians right to those targets because they don't care if their people are killed. They want them to be, because it's part of their propaganda. Israel is not committing genocide. They have sacrificed their own sons and daughters in order to protect the civilians that on October the 7th came across the border and murdered their own families. And did it not to destroy an army, but to murder, massacre, and mutilate pregnant women, babies, elderly people, older men, small children. You were in the Gaza envelope. You saw, you heard. I was here not very long after October 7th when the stench was still in the air. And I'm telling you, I saw things, I smelled things, I felt things, I heard things that I wished I never had. What was done to Israel on October the 7th is the reason that every time President Trump talks about the war in Gaza, he will say, all the hostages must come out. Hamas cannot stay. They have no future in Gaza. And then he always says, remember October the 7th. And I wish the world would remember. And I wish the world would put more pressure on Hamas to let the hostages go than they're putting on Israel to end their pursuit of peace and a secure border with people who have tried to annihilate their very existence. I wish that were the case. You may hear it said that Israel is an apartheid nation. What a lie. And if anyone really wants to just test that, I would just suggest go to Hadassah Medical Center at Ein Kerem in Jerusalem. Because if you walk into Hadassah, you're going to walk around and you're going to see that there are Arab doctors and there are Israeli doctors and they're working side by side. The head of the department might be Arab, might be Israeli, could be Muslim, could be Jew, could be Christian. Nobody cares. Nurses side by side, Israeli, Arab, Jew, Muslim. Patients not separated by whether they're Palestinian or separated by whether they're Jew. They're walking around together. They're sitting in the same waiting rooms. They're being treated by the medical staff and the support staff. You can't tell who's who because it doesn't matter. It is a place for people to be healed. And there is no apartheid. This is a lie. And it's a terrible lie that is inflicted upon the people of Israel. You will hear things that Israel is enjoying the war. They want to keep it going. I hear that from people who should know better. Whatever you think about the Prime Minister or the way in which the Israeli government is currently prosecuting the war, let me just say this to you. The U.S. representative from Israel, Israel's ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Leiter, wonderful man. His son was one of the first casualties in Gaza. Ron Dermer, who is the closest minister, the Minister of Strategic Affairs, closer to Prime Minister Netanyahu, than any other member of his inner circle. Has 2 sons fighting in Gaza right now. If I go to a meeting at the Prime Minister's office and he has the top 8 people of his cabinet, of his administration, of his office sitting in the room, at least half of them have sons or daughters that are fighting in Gaza right now. It is an insult to them and to everyone else to say that the Prime Minister wants the war to continue. He wants to end it. He wants the hostages to come home, all of them to come home. But he wants Hamas to know they didn't win. Because if Hamas thinks they win, there'll be another October 7th, and then another, and then another. And instead of 250 hostages, there'll be 2,500 hostages. And the living hell that these families have been through will be now the sad walk of many, many other families, not just in Israel, but in the United States and across the world. Because when Hamas came over and started murdering people and kidnapping people, they did not check their passports. And that's why there were a number of Americans murdered, a number of Americans held hostage, 2 deceased Americans still in Gaza right now, Itay Chen and Omar Nutra. Their families want their remains back to give them a proper burial, but Hamas continues to hold them. And for what purpose? Why do you hold the bodies, the remains of young people who have died? Because you don't care. That's where Israel is. And sadly, some of the European nations have decided that they're going to put pressure on Israel. They'll say, well, Israel ought to be feeding all the people in Gaza. Are you aware that Israel has sent over 2 million tons of food into Gaza already? And by the way, when I'm interviewed and I'm asked this question about the whole humanitarian effort, I just want to ask, and I do every time, just name for me, in the history of mankind, one country that was the country attacked and was expected to feed the country that attacked them while the war was still going on. Name one. You know what? You can't, because it's never happened. More food has gone into Gaza than in any war zone in human history. So why is it even possible that people could be hungry? I'll tell you why. Because Hamas steals 99%. That's the figure that the World Food Program, which is run through the United Nations, that's their number. I didn't make it up. It's not Hamas's number. It's not the number that their enemies give. It's the number they give themselves. The overall United Nations effort, 93% of the food that they send in is looted or stolen. By whom? Mostly by Hamas, because they take it, they warehouse it, they eat plenty of it. Look at any of them. They're well fed. Our hostages aren't. And then what you find out is that they take the food, they warehouse it, and then they sell it to the people who are supposed to be getting it in a humanitarian effort. And last year they made $500 million selling humanitarian food, with which they paid their terrorists, they built bombs, they bought bullets in order to kill more people. And that's why this war has continued on. So when people pretend that there needs to be something done, I will tell you, yes, there does need to be something done. Hamas needs to be defeated. It needs to go. And Israel needs to have a night's peace without a siren. That's what needs to happen. And I hope you go back. I hope you go back to the United States, to your states and your legislatures, and that you will carry what you have seen, what you have heard, what you have felt. I'm not asking you to become a flag-waving Israeli ambassador. I'm just asking something simpler than that. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. I hope this trip has been a highlight of your life, but for those of you who have been here and this is the first time, the one promise I'd love for you to make is this: it won't be your last time. You didn't get to see it all. I want to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Gideon Saar, and all of his team and staff for an incredible vision to bring people from 50 states, from all 50 states, 250 state legislators, to let you see for yourselves. I think it's one of the most important things that ever could have happened. And I tell people all the time, nothing is more important than letting people come here and see for themselves what this land is, who the people are. I close with this moment that I had with a young Israeli mother. A year and a half ago, I was visiting with some people in a little community called Kiryat Shimona up in the north on the Lebanese border. She's a mother. She had 4 children. Her husband was in Gaza at the time fighting. She wasn't sure when he would come home, if he would come home. And I was asking her, what's it like? How are you doing? And she said, I want my husband home, but I know he's doing what he has to do. And I'm every night grabbing my 4 children when the sirens go off, and I grab them in my arms, and I've got 90 seconds to get them to the shelter. And every night, sometimes several times a night, as the rockets come in from Hezbollah, from the Lebanon landscape, I try to get them to the shelter in time. And she says, I don't mind that we have to live always worrying about our security and safety. She says, I understand it. Many people in the world, they hate us. They want to kill us. But she said, and I'll never forget the look on her face, it wasn't a look of bitterness, not a look of anger, or even blame. She just said, I'm just tired. Because this mother hadn't slept much. And like a mother hen, she protected those kids every night, not knowing was her husband coming home. And since I met her, I've prayed over and over, God, let there be a time when this dear mother goes to bed at night and knows that she will sleep the whole night through, that no siren will go off, that she will not have to go and scoop her children up out of their beds and take them to a shelter to protect them. That somehow in this tiny little strip of real estate called Israel, that she will be able to know that her children are safe, that she is safe, that her husband is home, and that somebody in America did in fact do what the Bible tells us to do, and that is pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and that she would experience it. Thank you. God bless you. Have a good trip home.
It's 2025. America's debt is over $37 trillion, and the dollar just had its worst crash since 1973. That puts your savings and your family's future at risk. That's why we trust Alpha Omega Gold, a company that stands unapologetically with Israel and supports Stand Tall Israel. Visit ao.gold/stand to claim your free precious metals wayfinder guide or call 1-855-426-4653 today. Protect your future before it's too late.